Elaha, let me start with you. What is your take on this? Because obviously this is a major tragedy. It's getting massive exposure.
Absolutely. So first of all, I would like to obviously mention that any act of terror that involve killing innocent lives, taking innocent lives, should be condemned. And I completely oppose it. Any act of terror is fundamentally, religiously and morally and ethically wrong. But as someone who works mainly with refugee women, I'm really scared for the backlash that this attack is going to bring on refugee women. I mean, recently we witnessed a Muslim woman was bottled, someone was nearly thrown at London Underground. So I'm really scared for the racist hatred that's going to come after this attack.
But to the extent that you would deflect your sense of sympathies for the French nation at this moment, because I think you've taken the Lebanese flag on your Facebook profile, is that right? Rather than, as many people have done, is gone for the tricolour.
No, absolutely not. I have utmost sympathy with every single person that died in France, but my main concern is that there is a selective outrage in social media that only highlights on the West. It kind of shows Eastern life, people dying in Afghanistan. Let me give you an example in Afghanistan. Last week, 7 people were beheaded by ISIS, the same organization that carried out the attacks in France, but hardly anyone knows about it. So for me, as someone who works with refugees, it by any chance doesn't mean that I don't have sympathy with people in France. I do.
We'll come to that point about refugees, but selective outrage, Nadine.
You see, I don't think that's true. And I think it's absolutely true that news organisations around the world have differing priorities based on resources, based on, what's the story of the moment. So I was kind of aghast the past couple of days on Facebook, seeing this meme that was going around saying, why is nobody talking about Beirut? Well, actually, I saw it on the BBC 10 o'clock news the night it happened. It was broadcast on all the breakfast programmes the following day. It did get traditional media coverage. Now, what happened is social media users woke up a day later when several people were posting the tricolour flag saying, we don't know about this. Well, maybe get off Facebook and you might know about it. But I do...
Well, that's a little bit simplistic, isn't it? I mean, the fact is, here we are talking about the aftermath of the Paris attacks, as we have done pretty much every minute on BBC World, and as have all the other channels for the last 3 days, and it will go on. An attack in Beirut or an incident in Kabul doesn't get that.
No, absolutely. And again, I think what people don't understand that there isn't some sort of homogenous mass of media. There are news organisations, local, national, international, all over the world, all with differing priorities on different days. News moves on. Now here in the UK, I think it's absolutely right that France is getting the significant amount of global coverage it is. It is a massive news event for Europe. It is on our doorstep. It is also a news event of significant global consequence. Now, that's not to say that what happened in Lebanon wasn't absolutely awful, but there have been over half a dozen similar attacks in Lebanon this year.
And Elaha, sorry, that is a point, isn't it? This is, let's be crude about it in some respects, there is a novelty element to this. This is a shock to a system in a way that there are appalling things going on in many parts of the world, but they've been going on a long time and they keep going on. This has a different effect on people.
That doesn't mean that life is not equally worthy because Afghanistan is a war zone or Iraq is a war zone. I think human lives are equally...
If you hit 19 nationalities in one city, you are bound to have almost an explosion of interest and disgust in a way that if you hit a small community, you will have a different reaction.
I don't really think that Afghanistan or Iraq is a small community. Lebanon certainly isn't. We go holiday on the streets of Beirut, so Beirut is as familiar to us as the streets of Paris.
And I don't think anybody's saying that. I certainly don't think that's what I was saying. I mean, I'm a journalist and I know that right now there's about to be a genocide in Burundi. There's thousands of people dying every day in the Central African Republic. El Nino is creating massive droughts in Africa and Central America. We're not hearing those stories. But I think people have to be realistic. In a rolling news, 24-hour news environment, there's only so much that news organisations can do to cover stories, and that's just a harsh reality.
Let me just ask you this, because you made the point about refugees and your fear for them, and Nadine, that's what I wanted to put to you really. There is that real danger of backlash here, which is perhaps escalated by the way in which we cover this atrocity?
I certainly think it's being escalated on social media right now, and what I've seen is that a lot of Europeans feeling, and I think quite rightly, and I certainly felt this myself, quite aggrieved by the so-called thought police, telling them that they should take the tricolour down unless they can show penance to prove that they care about the rest of the world too. And I think that's actually quite offensive and kind of insulting to Europe, to be honest. I do care about the rest of the world, but I'm reeling from what's happened in France as a European. So but I do take your point, and I think in the coming days, I think, you know, these divisions are going to kind of get further and further entrenched, and it worries me.
Very quickly, last 15 seconds.
I think it's really important to have this debate right now, like I mentioned, because of the racist backlash that's going to happen, the hatred that's going to stir. So it's really, really important to say that the enemy doesn't differentiate between any of us. People are dying in Afghanistan and Iraq, so it's crucial to have this conversation right now so people know.